Oh, you guys got it cheaper?
Oh yeah, our appointments are less than $20.
How? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome, Irfan. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I guess tell me a bit about your story, Irfan. Like, I know you sort of have Roosterly now. How did it get to Roosterly? Were you always sort of a business owner and doing your own thing? How did you get to your current company, Irfan?
So no, I was not intending to be a business owner. Um, my parents immigrated from India to Seattle, Washington. Typical immigrant story. They want their children to have a better life. Um, and our focus was studying and getting good grades and either going to med school or into engineering or maybe, and that was sort of the two different options we had. Now, when we moved to a very non-diverse neighborhood when I was young, and I didn't see very many minorities growing up. So as a consequence of that, and you as a fellow minority might be able to relate, you are sometimes treated differently, right? You can't put your finger on what it is, but you're treated differently. And sort of, as I grew older, I really wanted to understand social psychology and sociology and race relations. And so that was sort of a natural interest. So that was the path I took. That randomly led me to working in technology, and I ended up working for Google in Southern California, and became interested in marketing and digital marketing specifically. There's a lot of social psychology within marketing. So, long story short, that was sort of the path that I took, and I haven't really regretted it very much. It's been interesting.
That's interesting. What is Roosterly and what sort of catalyzed you starting that company?
Yeah, so I was working on a research project, and I was interviewing a lot of C-level executives and small business owners. And one of the things that I learned, and my colleague who was working with me on this project, was um, they tended to have the same challenges when it came to social media or their personal brand. Um, the first group were risk averse. So they weren't quite sure what they should be sharing, what they should be posting, what were the right hashtags. They actually thought that they might get in trouble if they post the wrong content. They could, end up on the news. Any sort of, we saw these sort of strange stories of people getting in trouble at work for things that they did on social media. So that was one group. They just stayed off of social media. That cost them opportunities. The second group were people who understood the value of social media and posting content and positioning themselves as an authority, as a subject matter expert, building trust, building credibility. But the challenge was for a lot of professionals and small business owners and executives, they simply don't have the time to consistently write content, source content, curate content, and understand the best days and times to post. And so those folks, they tended to have sort of they'd be on 1 week, they'd be gone for 2 weeks, they'd be on 1 week again. That was the second group. The third group were individuals, usually C-level executives, who would outsource their content to overseas. The challenge was those individuals that were doing and managing content for a C-level executive in the United States. They didn't necessarily know or have the level of sophistication necessary to post on brand content. So, let's say you're a chief financial officer, you've got somebody overseas posting images of rainbows and kittens and unicorns. It's not the right vibe. And so we thought to ourselves, if we could create an algorithm that, based on who you are, what you do, your LinkedIn profile, who your connections are, what type of content they're sharing, commenting on, etc., we can then pull in content, curate content, post on the right times, on the right days, that generally engages your audience in a way that you, as an executive whose sole job is, whose talent lies outside of posting content on social media, we could build your brand for a nominal amount of money, right? So our focus was, how do we keep our clients and executives and small business owners building their brand, growing their brand without them having to invest a lot of time and money.
Interesting. What sort of got me intrigued was you talked about this algorithm where it sort of looked at who the person followed, the type of, what their followers do, and then sort of using nodes, you can sort of predict what type of content this person should create. How did you build out this algorithm? Like, where do you start? How did you build out this development team? Tell me about that. That really intrigues me.
Yeah. So as somebody who, when I started my first company, one of the things that I didn't know was sales. Didn't understand sales whatsoever. I'm not a sales guy by training or anything like that. And so as a consequence of that, folks would say, hey, you got to go out and network. You got to go out and meet people. You got to go out and, networking events. And the idea of that actually terrified me, but that really informed how to curate content. Let me give you an example. So if you and I met at a coffee shop in Sydney, Australia, and you're just getting to know me, and I'm talking all about social media, it's a very one-sided conversation, just talking to you about what I'm passionate about, you might say to yourself, gosh, this guy's, he's really interested in one particular thing. He hasn't asked me anything about myself. I really don't want to work with this guy, right? And we all see people on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, where they, business executives or small business owners that are pumping out this, they're almost like a robot pumping out content about how great they are or how wonderful their company is. And that's not real. That's not how humans interact, right? Like if you and I met at let's say we did a redo of our coffee date, and you and I met at a coffee shop in Sydney or here in downtown Chicago, and we actually have a sincere, authentic conversation about what we like. Oh, we like algorithms. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Or, okay, I've got a 3-year-old kid. Oh, you got kids too? Okay, great. That's a foundation for how real relationships develop. And that's what we wanted to mimic on social media. Social media, if you look at any historical technology, the phone, telegraph, it's not one-way communication, it's two-way communication. The value is in the interaction, okay? And so we wanted to build something that mirrors the audience. So if you're into cars, and we can pick these little details up about your audience and post content that is relatable, you're going to have a network that values your content because it mirrors what they like.
Interesting. So right now I'm sort of in the process of growing sort of my development team. Right now we have 2 full-time developers, but eventually I want to sort of implement sort of algorithms, recommendations. So if someone watches this educational video and they went ahead and picked this video to watch, next time someone watches that video A, they'll be recommended video B because a prior person done it, and that node would get stronger and stronger. How do I find someone to implement these ideas? Do I search up algorithm developer? Where do I even start when I want to slowly go from developing to like building in these complicated systems?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say is the word algorithm, by the way, or AI, just carries a lot of connotation about complexity.
Yes.
And algorithms, they don't need yes, there are some complex algorithms, of course, but for a lot of the things that we do every day, those are relatively simple if-then statements, right? And you just build them out over time. It's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. We built probably a whole series of them that were terrible, and then they slowly just started getting better. We dialed them up, we dialed them down, and we're always tweaking them as social media changes. Right now, videos, certainly more important. When we first started, video was not as important. Photos became more important over time as well. So working with folks that are analytical, who understand programming, who understand the development of algorithms, and who've worked with things like that. That's all you really need. We work with a decentralized team of like 4 people, and that's all we, it's a close-knit group. They're all people that I know and have worked with in the past.
That's super cool. Now tell me about the content you guys produce. So if, let's say I'm a CFO of this marketing company and I want to create content, I use your software. Like, do I have to pre-film stuff, or do you guys get memes from the internet based on what my following is? How do you guys just generate content from thin air?
Yeah, so there's it's gotten more and more complex. It's a brilliant question. So first off, content is largely curated. So it could be if you're a CFO of a marketing company and the marketing company is X amount of people, you're going to be interested in different things than if you're in a CFO for a large consulting company. So one of the things we do is each client fills out a simple questionnaire of the things that they're interested in: topics, hashtags, keywords, publications, right? They fill that out. The second component is we scan their social profiles to pick up keywords, right? And the third thing they do is they connect their social profiles to our software. So it's an OAuth process where you just hit a button, you connect your social profile to Roosterly, and through the API of some of these social platforms, we're able to get visibility into analytics and who's liking what their audience is sharing, those kinds of things. So those are the 3 components, or the recipe, or the ingredients that go into how then we go out and source content. Now, about 80% of that job is automated. Okay. And that's a dirty word when it comes to content. You don't want, and I would say 20% is manual. As we get into more video and images, it becomes more challenging to make sure that the content is on brand, on message. It's closely aligned with what the client would want. So there is some human judgment that goes into it. And for some clients, it's 100% automation. For some, it's not as much. Now, keep in mind, we work with some very large law firms. We work with people in finance. There's a lot of regulation in both of those industries. So we've got to be very careful and judicious with our process to make sure that we're not posting stuff that's religious or that's political. We need to make sure that our content is either positive or benign. And so we've got a series of ways that we score that content, both in an automated way and a manual way, to make sure that we don't lose subscribers. Our focus is retention always.
Does that mean that posts may be sort of repeated for several different clients? Like if you guys have 2,000, is there a good chance that one post and copy with that post would probably have been reposted by 10, 20 different people?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. So keep in mind, there's about 40 or 50 variables that go into each client. So that from the types of connections that they have, for their geographic location, for the keywords on their LinkedIn profile, and even the form that they fill out, which is about 20, 30 questions, there's quite a few variables, right? Now, what that does is that minimizes the amount of content that is duplicated. But let's say that you're a tax lawyer in Southern California, and let's say you've got another tax lawyer in, I don't know, Oregon. If their network is very specific, is there a likelihood that the content could be similar, or in some cases the same? Yes, it could, but that's unlikely. And even if it is the same, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We score content based on also likes and shares and how much visibility it's getting, right? So, but yes, if we would have a huge problem if we only had 100 clients and all of them were, here's a great quote from Napoleon, and 2 minutes later, here's a great quote from Napoleon, or whatever it is, right? So yeah, we try to make sure that doesn't happen, and it really doesn't.
Interesting. And does that mean you guys initially had to, say, hire a lot of freelancers to build a vault filled with photos, quotes, copywriting? You have like 1,000 of each, and then you multiply that, that's how many combinations you can have. Did you have to pre-build a massive vault, or is that automated?
No, we grew initially very slowly. Keep in mind, we started in 2015 and we made a lot of mistakes, and we didn't have very much money. So we had to do this on a shoestring. Now, as we grew, then we started building out content. And look, content always has to be fresh. You can't have stale content from a year ago, or even 6 months ago in some cases. So we're always refining what's out there, right? We've got a team of graphic designers. We're always making sure that our content isn't copyrighted, that it's fresh, that it's hits the right tone, all those kinds of things. So there's some training and science now that goes behind that.
Damn, so if there's science and training, how do you service 2,000 people? Like, does that mean you need like a lot of copywriters, a lot of graphic designers?
No, so we've got a team of about 20 people total. And we've got a team of about 3.5 graphic designers, and they're pumping out content. A lot of the content is inspired by things that are already out there that we can manipulate quickly. And so they're not slaving over each, individual piece of content. We've got a process, and this is part of any startup. Once you begin to find challenges, you look for ways to reduce the amount of time for a process that has to be repeated, right? So, and that ends up, if you can, that's part of the challenge, I think. Look, take a look at McDonald's, right? The idea of making a hamburger, bun, lettuce, tomato, cheese, whatever, all that stuff. Once you have a conveyor belt of a process where it puts out exactly the right amount of ketchup, exactly the right amount of mustard, whatever, and it tastes the same every time, and it's good. It's very gratifying, I'll say. So I love doing that kind of stuff, right? Initially, I was really freaked out about it. I was like, oh gosh, we have to hire more people. That's going to be expensive. But I would say not to be afraid of that, because your expense might go up. But if you can make it more efficient and figure out a way to scale it, it's great. Now, the other example that I'll give you, if you take a look at Facebook, or LinkedIn or Instagram, for every 5, 10, 100, 200 users that they gain in a minute or a day, how many extra people do they have to hire? Does their expense go up? No, it doesn't. It's great. Yeah. Unfortunately, Roosterly is not that type of a business. When we get 100 subscribers, we need to have an additional resource, right? We've actually done the math for X amount of subscribers. For every X amount of subscribers, we need X, Y, Z people on staff to manage that. So is that ideal? No, because when you take a look at company valuation and things like that, in terms of how you want to grow the company, that can sometimes be not ideal. But it just depends on sort of what you want and how you want to grow, I guess.
Interesting. Is it possible for you guys to outsource the copywriting, graphic development, design to like people in the Philippines, India, Mexico? Is that something you guys currently do, or is that something you guys could do?
Great question. So the American aesthetic, the look, the feel, the font, the language, all these little details are important, especially on platforms like Instagram. where it's all visual. It can be a bit challenging to quickly be able to ramp somebody up to natively, just intuitively understand, verbiage. When you think about, even some words are spelled differently in Europe and Asian countries that are in English than they're spelled in the US. And so, to go back to my McDonald's example, or Starbucks example, if you want to be highfalutin or whatever, it's really important to ensure quality control, right? And if you begin compromising on costs, right? If you try to go for the shortcuts, your customers will feel it, your clients will feel it, and they're not gonna stay on for very long. Especially with some of our clients are chief operating officers at well-regarded high brand, big brand name companies, and so it's a big deal to us to make sure that we're investing the right amount of energy and effort and resources into content.
Interesting. Now, I know you mentioned earlier, and you talked about the importance of retention and giving your sort of clients the best experience possible. What's sort of the KPI that your clients are looking for? Do they sort of want more reach each month? Do they want leads each month? Does everyone have a different goal? Well, what do you try to give them?
Yeah, so for I would say for the majority of our clients, the KPI is time. It's a valuable commodity that often, these folks don't have enough of. They have, X amount of priorities that they need to get to in a day. For them, and they're in positions of leadership. So for them, sitting on LinkedIn or sitting on, Facebook or Twitter or usually LinkedIn, and deciding, okay, is this caption right? Are these the right hashtags? Our service is $99 a month. Is it going to get you leads? No, it's absolutely not going to. It's going to get you 0 leads. And I say that when I'm on a sales call or when our team's on a sales call with folks, to set expectations, because if they feel like they can, people are going to beat a path to their door and, sign up for, yeah, I'll take 2 of whatever you offer, then that's just silly, right? This is a low-cost way to keep your name in front of your network with thought-provoking, engaging content without you having to do anything. Now, the question that I ask executives isn't, how much is an hour of your time worth? And if it's not worth very much, you should do your own social media. You shouldn't sign up for us, right? Whereas if you're somebody who's busy, who just needs to delegate this to somebody else, we're a great option for you.
Interesting. How do you guys increase your customers' retention rate and lifetime value and prevent people from being like 2 months in, they recently got a mini car crash and they're like, it's cool that I'm posting content every day, but I'm not getting too much from this content I'm posting on LinkedIn. I'm going to stop this subscription and fix my car, and maybe I'll come back. How do you prevent that problem?
Yeah, so I think we spent more time than makes sense in building that relationship and making sure that they feel good about working with us. And what do I mean when I say that? So a lot of companies that are sort of service-oriented companies that charge, under $150 a month or whatever, you go to their website, you sign up on your own, and for a free trial, and you stay. You don't really interact with any human being, right? And some people think that's great on the that own those companies. Like, oh man, this is great. We just get all these clients. I'm not a proponent of that, especially for the demographic that we're going after. You have to know your audience really well. You have to know demographics, psychographics, what they like, what they don't like, how they want to be treated, right? So we actually take the time to onboard each client individually, spend 20, 30, sometimes more time with them. And so you might think, wow, gosh, that totally blows your client acquisition cost because you're spending all this time up front. Well, no, it doesn't, because it significantly increases our LTV. They stay on for a much longer time. Then we got, monthly check-ins with them. They receive an email saying, hey, we'd love to get your thoughts on how the program is working with you. Schedule a call here. They also get text messages from me to do that as well. Now, I would say 95% of them elect not to book a call or not to follow up because they know that they're being taken care of. They'll reach out to me or somebody on my team if they want to augment their content preferences, if they've changed jobs, or even if they want to pause. Like, we don't have contracts, so they can start, stop anytime. But it's like that Nordstrom's or Starbucks or some of these brands that take a lot of pride in nurturing their clients and prospects, and I love doing that. The one other thing that I'll say is I don't mind spending a lot of time with clients on the phone. Some people say, gosh, it's only a $99 a month service. Why would you do that? Look, I've met some of the most incredible people on the planet that I'm honored to count as clients, who I probably would never be able to be in a room with, otherwise we've had great conversations, that's how we keep retention up and attrition down.
Interesting. So within the education and info product space, when you sort of build out a sales process where you sort of collect in leads and they either go through a VSL and they book in a call, or maybe you just outreach all these leads and you call 400 phone numbers, 80 pick up, and then you book in 30 into a strategy session. It sort of works when the product is like a, say, $3,000 product, 10 grand, 5 grand product. And it makes it worth doing all that sort of effort. If I want to go ahead and sell a sort of subscription, a sort of like that masterclass subscription where it's like, $50 a week, or a Netflix subscription that is $30 a month. How do I make that work with ads and salespeople? Because the lifetime value, maybe it's a lot over a period of 2 years, 3 years, but upfront, it's very expensive to have salespeople run those ads, do outreach, onboard, and do discovery calls. What's your advice there?
Yeah, so it's not. A lot of people think it is. For us, I'll just be very upfront. It costs us about $154 to get one client. That client stays for 22 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then are you guys running ads straight to like a booking, or do you sort of collect leads and you outreach? What's the best process?
No, so there's it took us about 6 months to dial that in where it worked. So we lost money on running ads for what felt very painful amount of time. What felt like a very painful amount of time. But without giving away too much, we target a very specific demographic and audience, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. We have them go into a free trial and book a call for their onboarding. And that onboarding call is usually about 15 to 20 minutes. If they're on the phone with one of my sales guys, if they're on the phone with me, I talk forever. But I'm allowed to do that sometimes. So I know that for every $1 I give to Facebook, I get $9 back, right? My return on ad spend is healthy. And that's the number that I look for. My cost per lead, my cost per appointment, right? My cost per client acquisition, and LTV. And so as long as those numbers match up, especially the return on ad spend, I can keep going, right?
I was going to ask, are you guys optimizing straight for the appointment, or do you guys optimize for people that book in a free trial, or do you optimize for people who become a lead?
Yeah, well, we optimize for the appointment.
Okay.
Yeah. On that appointment is where we earn the trust and credibility. And we also decide who we don't want to work with, right? I don't want everyone and that's actually, gosh, so important. Too many people focus on driving traffic and getting everybody to sign up. No. If you understand how banks work, they don't want the clients, just everyone, to be a client of the bank. You want the folks that you think are going to be the most profitable for you and who are going to be the best clients to work with, right? Like any business. So that allows us not only to qualify in the right type of clients, but it also allows us to qualify out the clients that just simply aren't a good fit for us.
Interesting. And like I've ran ads for appointments, and I know if you're pretty good, you can get maybe appointments around like say $75 an appointment, maybe $50. Oh, you guys got it cheaper?
Oh yeah. Our appointments are less than $20.
How? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because the next question I was going to talk about shop rates, because that's another thing a lot of businesses worry, where they get appointments, but only like 30% of people show up. But $20, how did you get it so low?
Yeah. Audience targeting, good copy, and good automation sequence, good nurturing sequence. Now, when it comes to no-show rate, that was something that was also very painful. We spent months on figuring out, what was going on there and how to reduce that. So we've actually got voicemails that go out, that kick off, where somebody signs up for an appointment, they get a voicemail right after they book an appointment, and it's from me, like, hey, I saw that you just booked an appointment. It could be 2 a.m, right? But so that helps. But then we also actually have somebody who calls them the next day, depending on what time they booked it, like an actual human being that pre-qualifies them. So they say things like, hey, I saw that you booked an appointment. If this is a good fit, do you expect that you'll sign up? Just very sort of pointed questions around what their expectations are. So that way, when the sales guy or myself get on a phone call, it's meant to be a very sort of direct and straightforward conversation in terms of the actual signing up.
Interesting. Now this 6-month process, because last year I went through a similar 6-month process where I was trying to build out the whole sales process, have appointment setters, have sort of closers, and sort of work out the numbers and try different funnels. It was like a tough, painful process. How did you go through it, Irfan? Like, did you hire a salesperson that had experience, or did you figure it out yourself first?
Yeah. So, I never want somebody who works for me in sales to go through a process that I haven't tested myself. It's unfair. And so I spent X amount of money consistently refining that process, getting on the phone with prospects, refining the pitch, taking it from a 45-minute call to a 40-minute call to a 20-minute call, figuring out what's the right amount. That's really important. You can never expect your salespeople to be successful at something until that you've done it yourself and it's proven successful repeatedly, right? Really important. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I did it all with a small team.
That's crazy. And then I guess, how did you figure out, like, you got a crazy life, like a 22-month, that's really, really long. That's amazing. How did you get it to 22-month, which is the average lifespan I think you mentioned earlier? And do you have any upsells, or is it just the monthly subscription?
No, we've got a couple of upsells. They don't necessarily, I think, we haven't really figured out the right upsell because the bulk of our executives, clients, small business clients, as long as they see that their social media is posting good content, they're happy with it and stuff like that, there's no reason for them to discontinue. Now, unless that their business has grown so much and they're like, you know what, I really want to really beef up my social media presence. Like I'm going to start doing podcasts. I'm going to be at webinars, and I'm going to be like Russell Brunson or, whatever. That's a different, they got to spend a lot more money to do that. But we've regularly had people who've come to us, started at the $99 level and say, hey, I really like your Facebook ads, or I really like your Instagram ads. I like the sales funnel that I went through. Could you guys run my Facebook ads or my Instagram ads or whatever? And so that's not something that we are necessarily built to do, because that takes a lot of time and capital and human labor. And my focus is scaling, increasing the number of subscribers. So, if we can find upsells that are efficient, that don't require a lot of labor, that add good revenue, like healthy revenue, then I'm interested in exploring those.
Interesting. How's your time split between product development, giving the customer a better experience, now implementing videos because the algorithm has changed, versus how much % of your time is put on sales, how to scale the marketing, how to ramp things up, how to bring in more salespeople, how to 10x things?
Yeah, well, when you're starting a company and you're just an army of one, then you have to figure out a way to do everything. Like finance, product development, sales, and it's a disaster. But as you grow, your judgment becomes better. You have more revenue, and you can hire people to help support you in some of those things and getting them done quickly. So my focus is now hiring more salespeople, hiring more customer relationship management people, and allowing myself to focus. So we've got a person that just manages our sales team. That's his job. He's great at what he does. He is somebody that I consider a chief operating officer as opposed to a sales manager. And then I can go focus on product and features and how to make our platform better and things like that. But I also like rotating around to different areas. I love spending time with clients. I love spending time in sales and just kind of because that helps me understand what's next. And I think if you're not doing that, if you sort of a lot of product developers or a lot of programmers, they get into this sort of comfort zone when they're generating enough revenue. We're like, hey, I don't want to worry about sales. I don't want to worry about this. I'm like in my little comfort zone, in my cocoon. I just want to be able to work on my stuff. And that when you start doing that, that is a problem, because technology has a small shelf life, right? What's hot today on social media is not going to be hot tomorrow on social media or any technology. You take your pick. So it's imperative that your sales teams that are on the front lines answering questions from clients. Hey, do you guys do this? Do you guys do that? That you're able to understand what clients are asking most about and be able to adapt. Otherwise, you'll die.
That's amazing, Irfan. One thing I wanted to ask about is, were you guys always at $99 a month? Did it take a while to find the sweet spot pricing? Because what I'm noticing is it's just as tough to sell a $3,000 product as a $300 plus $50 a week. And we're like, it's way cheaper, but why is it just as hard? And we're like, what's the best pricing model? This is so hard.
Yeah. Great question. So we started out at $29 a month. We went to $49, and we went to $39, and then we went to $79, and then we went up and down a number of times, and we tested different pricing models. When we were too inexpensive, people just didn't have faith that we could actually do what we are saying that we could do, and which was terrible. And then we had the opposite problem, where we had some folks, and you don't want to listen to everyone, because I get on the phone with folks and they're like, what? It's $99. Wow, that's too much. I can have somebody do it for well, you should. If you think that you can have it done for less, and look, this is why the world is so beautiful. You can go buy a Ferrari, you can go buy a Toyota Camry too. That's okay. It's okay either way. It just depends on what you want. And so I found myself, I used to be, get offended and be like, take it personally, but I don't do that anymore, right? I mean, there's like, especially as you start growing, you get to weed out the things that you don't find important to you.
Interesting. And then I guess what's your advice to finding that $99 sweet spot?
Well, I'm not sure that $99 is the sweet spot. That's an amount that we happen to be comfortable in the amount of profit that we make on every sale. And for now, it works. That's not to say that we might not increase our prices next year, or whenever. But for right now, it's healthy. Everybody's happy. The clients are happy. We're happy. And you're right. It does, it does take just as much effort sometimes to sell a $3,000 product or a look, I've had clients who've signed up for a $16,000 a month program. It's a little bit different than, what we're doing, the $99 certainly, but that have that are easy to close. And then I've had clients that are, they're like, oh, let me think about the free trial. And it's like, hey, look, if you can't make that decision in 10 minutes or within 15 minutes of being on a call with myself or one of my team members, we really don't even want your business. It's not a good fit for you. It's really meant for people that are, very directed, type A, they know what they want. And we do a good job of explaining what our service does. So it's really important to get the right type of clients. And once you have a good solid sales pitch and social proof and examples of what you do, it shouldn't take long to convert them into clients if you can actually back up and your service or product or whatever it is actually does what you say it will do.
Interesting. Tell me about the free trial. Like, how long is a free trial? Is there a sweet spot 7 days, 14 days, and do you automatically bill after that? What's the sweet spot there?
We do. For us, it's 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's 14 days. We initially did 7 days, and that didn't work. We did a month, and that was too much.
Oh, wow.
For 7 days, it doesn't even allow us to really get started doing anything. 30 days, and the client, I don't think, loses their attention on what they signed up for sometimes, and they're like, oh gosh, I don't think I need this, or whatever. Or it's not necessarily that answer consistently, but we found out that in 14 days they tend to be pretty engaged. They remember all these things. Yeah. And then we do, some companies, when you sign up for them, they don't tell you that, even though it's a free trial and it says, hey, it's 14 days and you're gonna get billed in 14 days. The companies don't warn you that, hey, tomorrow or in 2 days you're about to get billed. We do that, and the only reason why is I've signed up for things. I'm guilty of signing up for lots of subscription-based services, not lots, but a few, and then saying, oh darn, I forgot to cancel that. I didn't really like it. And I feel like that's like you're trying to pull a fast one on the clients. And that's no way to build. If you're trying to build a healthy relationship where your clients respect you and want to work with you, that's not a way to do it. So we do send out automated emails saying, hey, your free trial is expiring. You don't need to do anything. If you want to cancel, just let us know. We'll cancel. Being upfront as possible about that is really important.
Interesting. You talked about 1 week being not enough and then 30 days being like a bit too much, people might forget. Does that mean in that 2 weeks you might be reaching out to them again and checking back in? So that means you're calling them once to get them onboarded and calling them again before the first billing. Is that how it works?
We don't actively call them. We send them a text message saying, hey, it's been about 10 days since you started your free trial. If you want to book a call and to review your content, let's do it. Or, just know that you're going to be converting over to a paid subscriber. I don't remember the exact language, but in the next few days. So I think that gesture of goodwill is underestimated, I think, by a lot of businesses. I always that's how I would like to be treated, and that's why we do it that way. Now, we've had clients that have come back, hey, you guys billed me. I got a $99 charge and I didn't ask for this and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, hey, no worries. I'm going to refund you right now. Don't worry about it. There, within 10 minutes of that email, somebody's usually refunding them saying, hey, there you go. Everything cool. And by the way, when you signed up, here's the language that said, it's a free trial. It automatically bills in 14 days. So, and that's what I like about having a service that is not $3,000. Because when and if you do have attrition, you lose a client here or there, it's not impacting your revenue, that you can't pay your mortgage or, whatever. You live a life with less anxiety. I'll put it that way. It's nice and peaceful. I'm happy with our team and our clients and the way everything, how things work together.
As I'm talking to you, I'm realizing it's wow, all the problems that I'm going through, you went through the exact same problem. You had to deal with it. But in the moment, 6 months ago, when I was in it, it felt like, man, why does it look like everyone has it easy and this is so hard for me to figure out? Did you feel the same way? And how did you deal with that loneliness, that feel like you're sort of this lone warrior trying to build this out on your own before you can then hire people and there's no one to back you up?
Yeah, it is a soul-crushing feeling. It's not fun. I mean, you're a smart guy. I mean, I make the same mistake 3 or 4 times before I figure out how to fix it. But, and it is incredibly lonely because it's really easy to ask people for advice. And then a lot of people just tell you what they think that you want to hear. Other people will just want to hey, you should really put yourself out of your misery because it's not that serious. It was really depressing. I mean, we went for a long time without making any money. We went for a long time where I wasn't even interested in the business. I was just like, man, should I go drive an Uber? Should I, not that there's anything wrong with driving an Uber, but when you start a business, you have certain goals and objectives of how you want your life to be and how you want to spend your waking hours. And so luckily I've got an incredible wife, and a good team of advisors and people that have started and sold businesses. And that's who I love surrounding myself with. Other business owners that have businesses that are much bigger than mine, or who've failed and started another business, failed again and started another business, and it's worked. But people with good energy, that are positive, that I can call at random times of the day and just hey, I'm having a terrible day. I just got a call from this person or that person. You're gonna have a million problems growing a business. It's just the nature of how things are. Your job is to solve problems as a business owner, right? It's literally solving problems every day to make things better, more efficient, etc. So surround yourself with good people, because it is lonely.
Crazy. Tell me about your vision, long-term vision for the company. Besides growing and getting more sales and having more people on the monthly subscription, what's your long-term vision with Roosterly?
Yeah, so it's Roosterly.
Roosterly.
I think the part that I would like to figure out is how can we make more of a impact? Now that I have a 3-year-old son, my priorities and the legacy that I want to leave and how I want to be thought of, and the work that we do to be thought of is different. I'm not Elon Musk, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg, I don't have that intellectual power. great that some people do, but at our level as a small business, we've got to figure out ways that where we can do some good. And so my focus is, how do we do good for society in our own small way? How do we do good for our clients, for the people that work for us? Is there something that we could do to, in our own small way, make the world a better place where we can say, hey, look, this was cool. We started this, we grew it. Whether other companies that you should look at, Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Starbucks is a company that I admire. There's a lot of these businesses that, the cool thing as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that you get to do is you've got the freedom to paint a picture that you want to paint, if you work hard enough, right? So that's sort of, I guess, the next chapter of my life, and what I'd like to build.
That's amazing. Irfan, tell me, I guess, where can people find more about what you're doing, about what Roosterly is doing? Where's the best place they can follow you?
Roosterly.com, Roosterly.com. Okay, cool. Or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking to people. Most people. So yeah, that would be the best way to connect with me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Irfan. I really love this chat. Like, I can just tell how authentic and real you are. You've been through the rough, you've been through the grit, and despite all that, you still have this sort of kind, authentic sort of energy, and you haven't been scarred through all the tough things that you've gone through, and you have this depth of experience. Like, I've thrown all types of questions at you and you're able to answer them all, and you definitely you've done everything, so you were able to answer everything, and I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks. I've been scarred for sure, but I won't let you see where the scars are. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Most definitely. So yeah, guys, that's another episode on the podcast. Hope you guys got value from this episode. Please let me know your thoughts. We'll link all these sort of all Irfan's links in the description below, and we'll see you guys next week with another episode. Peace.